What if I told you that the story of our world isn't just written in books or maps, but in the memories of battles fought across oceans, the silent ruins of broken cities, and the quiet hopes of people who survived it all? The history of international war isn't just about nations clashing, it's about the choices we've made, the lives we've lost, and the lessons we still carry today. International wars often begin with deeply rooted causes that go far beyond a single event. At the core of many of these large-scale conflicts are struggles over power, land, and resources. Countries grow and develop their own interests, and sometimes those interests clash with the goals of others. When governments feel threatened politically, or even culturally, they may begin to see war as a way to protect or expand their influence. Historical examples show that many international wars have emerged when one nation sought more territory or access to vital resources like oil, water routes, or fertile land. These material interests are often combined with ideologies about how the world should be governed or what system of rule is best. Sometimes leaders use these beliefs to justify aggression, painting other nations as enemies to rally their own people. Nationalism, which is a strong sense of pride and loyalty to one's country, can also play a powerful role. While patriotism can bring people together, extreme nationalism has sometimes pushed nations into war by promoting ideas of superiority or dominance. Colonial ambitions during the 19th and early 20th centuries are another key cause of international war. Powerful countries sought to expand their empires by taking over weaker regions, often leading to conflicts among rival empires. As these ambitions collided, tensions escalated and wars became more likely. Moreover, past grievances and historical animosities often resurface in the international arena, especially when old wounds remain unhealed. A war might begin, not because of one day's decision, but because of years, even decades of mistrust, competition, or unresolved conflict. Communication failures between nations, misunderstandings, and broken treaties have also sparked global conflict. These deeply layered causes often overlap, making it difficult to point to just one reason why a war starts. World War I and World War II stand as two of the most significant and devastating events in global history, marking turning points that changed the political and social fabric of the entire world. World War I, which began in 1914, was triggered by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. But the deeper causes were rooted in tangled alliances, rising nationalism, imperial ambitions, and an arms race among major powers. Once war broke out, countries across Europe and later from other continents were drawn into a brutal and prolonged conflict. It introduced trench warfare, machine guns, and chemical weapons, killing millions of soldiers and civilians. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 ended the war but imposed harsh terms on Germany, fostering resentment and economic hardship that would later fuel the rise of extremism. Just 2 decades later, the world plunged into an even greater War II. This war, beginning in 1939, was shaped by the failure to maintain peace after the First Global War. Germany, under Adolf Hitler's leadership, sought to overturn the Treaty of Versailles, expand its territory, and promote a fascist ideology. Japan and Italy also pursued expansionist goals. World War II spread rapidly across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, involving more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. It brought horrors such as the Holocaust, strategic bombings of cities, and the first use of nuclear weapons. In warfare, the global scale of destruction was unmatched, with tens of millions of lives lost. These two wars reshaped borders, broke empires, and shifted global power dynamics. They led to the rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, and sowed the seeds for the Cold War. They also led to the creation of the United Nations in hopes of preventing such destruction from ever happening again. Technology has always played a central role in the way wars are fought, but international conflicts have pushed technological development faster and further than almost any other force in history. As nations compete on a global scale, the need to outmatch Opponents drives innovation in both weaponry and strategy. In earlier wars, soldiers relied on swords, muskets, and cannons, but as the industrial age emerged, so did the tools of modern warfare. The invention of tanks allowed armies to move across rough terrains with more power, while machine guns dramatically increased the speed and scale of battlefield casualties. During World War I, airplanes were first used in combat for reconnaissance, bombing, and aerial dogfights, changing how battles were observed and fought from the sky. World War II expanded on these advances, introducing even more powerful machines like long-range bombers, aircraft carriers, and advanced submarines. One of the most chilling breakthroughs was the development of the atomic bomb, a technology that brought global warfare to a new level of danger and forced the world to confront the possibility of total destruction. Radar and code-breaking machines, such as the British Enigma project, changed the way intelligence and communication shaped war outcomes. In the decades following these wars, the Cold War era introduced an arms race that included nuclear missiles, spy satellites, and early computer systems. As time moved into the modern age, international warfare became increasingly digital. Cyber warfare, surveillance technology, and drone strikes began replacing traditional combat in many cases. Nations now compete not only on the battlefield but also in cyberspace, where information can be just as powerful as weapons. The rapid pace of innovation means that international conflicts are no longer fought just with armies, but with data, satellites, and remote-controlled weapons that can strike from thousands of miles away. After the devastating effects of international wars, especially the two world wars, nations recognized the urgent need for cooperation to prevent future conflicts. This realization led to the formation of global alliances and international organizations aimed at maintaining peace and promoting dialogue. One of the earliest and most significant efforts was the creation of the League of Nations after World War I, designed to provide a platform where countries could resolve disputes diplomatically. However, the League struggled due to a lack of authority and participation from major powers, and it ultimately failed to stop the outbreak of World War II. In response to that failure, the United Nations was founded in 1945 with stronger structures and wider support from member states. The UN became a key institution in international peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, and conflict resolution. Alongside the UN, military alliances also took shape to provide mutual defense and strategic balance. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was established in 1949 to create a collective defense system among Western nations during the Cold War. In reaction, the Soviet Union formed the Warsaw Pact with its allies. These alliances shaped the political and military alignment of countries across the globe for decades, influencing how conflicts were approached and prevented. Other regional alliances also developed, such as the European Union, African Union, and ASEAN, which not only aimed at political cooperation but also promoted economic stability and regional security. These alliances created networks of dependency and trust that made war between members less likely. Diplomatic negotiations, international courts, arms control treaties, and peacekeeping missions further contributed to building a system of accountability and mutual responsibility. Through these alliances, nations found new ways to protect their interests without resorting to war, making diplomacy a more powerful tool than ever before in managing international relations. The Cold War was a unique period in international history where two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, competed fiercely for global influence without engaging in direct military conflict with each other. Instead of fighting openly, they supported opposing sides in regional conflicts, known as proxy wars, which allowed them to pursue their agendas without triggering a global war. These proxy wars occurred in many parts of the world, including Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Angola, and Latin America. Each side would often fund, arm, or train groups that aligned with its ideology: capitalism for the US and communism for the Soviet Union, while avoiding direct confrontation. In Korea, The North was backed by China and the Soviet Union, while the South received support from the United States and United Nations forces. A similar pattern followed in Vietnam, where the North was supported by Communist allies and the South by American and Western interests. These conflicts caused massive destruction and loss of life in the countries where they took place, even though the main superpowers never fought each other. The competition also extended to the nuclear arms race, space race, espionage, and propaganda campaigns, all used as tools to gain strategic advantage. The Cold War environment kept much of the world in a constant state of tension. Nations were often forced to choose sides, dividing the world into ideological camps. Countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America found themselves caught between these powers, often facing internal unrest fueled by foreign involvement. The Cold War didn't end through war, but rather through political and economic changes, especially in the Soviet Union, which led to its collapse in the early 1990s. This period demonstrated that even without direct battle, international rivalry could still lead to widespread conflict, instability, and suffering across many regions of the world. Asterisk. The human cost of international wars has been one of the most devastating aspects of global conflict. Beyond the statistics and battlefield reports, war affects the lives of ordinary people in ways that are often permanent. Millions have been killed or wounded, and countless others have been forced to flee their homes due to violence, destruction, or political instability. Families are torn apart, children grow up in refugee camps, and generations are shaped by the trauma of war. Entire cities have been reduced to rubble, cultural landmarks lost, and economies shattered, leaving communities struggling to rebuild even years after the fighting ends. Asterisk. In the aftermath of war, the focus often turns to peace-building efforts, aimed at restoring stability and preventing future conflict. These efforts include humanitarian aid, reconstruction programs, political reforms, and justice for war crimes. Peace treaties, though often fragile, serve as the foundation for rebuilding trust between former enemies. International organizations, including the United Nations, play a key role in these missions by providing peacekeepers, monitoring ceasefires, and supporting democratic transitions. Asterisk. Civil society groups, religious leaders, and survivors also contribute to healing and reconciliation by promoting dialogue, education, and mutual understanding. Truth commissions have been established in some post-conflict countries to help uncover past atrocities and allow victims' voices to be heard. In many cases, these processes are long and difficult, as rebuilding what was lost can take decades. Asterisk. The experiences of war survivors remind the world of the importance of peace and the heavy price paid when diplomacy fails. They also inspire movements for disarmament, human rights, and international cooperation. Despite the destruction, these efforts reflect the resilience of the human spirit and the desire to create a world where future generations can live without the fear of war. Asterisk. War has shaped our world in countless ways through destruction, transformation, and hard-learned lessons. From the roots of conflict to the horrors of world wars, from the rise of powerful alliances to the silent battles of the Cold War, and from the relentless advancement of warfare technology to the unmeasurable human cost, the history of international war is not just a record of violence, but also of resilience and recovery. It teaches us how easily peace can be broken, and how deeply people suffer when it is lost. Yet within that same history lies hope born from peace-building, unity, and the courage to choose dialogue over division. Understanding this history is not just about remembering the past, but about shaping a future where nations reach across borders, not with weapons, but with words and goodwill. Peace is not simply the absence of war. It is the presence of compassion, cooperation, and commitment to a better world for all.